The Lightning Addict, from the Killer and Keeper universe. Chronicle of Kaelion, the Lightning Addict. Born in the crumbled edges of Dreythal's forgotten wards, Kaelion was a bastard by law, but bred from blood long whispered in chapel darkness, a descendant of the Hollow Order's late degeneration. The wards themselves were labyrinths of soot and silence, where rusting cathedral bells hung mute from collapsed towers, and the cobbled alleys oozed damp with the breath of centuries. The air stank of mildew and incense, long since curdled into rot. Murals of saints and knights, once proud, now wept pain down ruined walls, their faces melted into grotesque echoes by candle smoke and salt decay. Kaelion was trained in silence, shackled to duty, raised on shadows and pain, just like Yarvik, the infamous Shadow Spear, whose name still drew reverent fear. The twisted beauty of Dreythal's wards forged his early beliefs into contradictions, that suffering was sacred, that strength came from silence, and that discipline was the only salvation for the bloodstained. He feared the sound of thunder, not for its violence, but because it shattered the quiet that protected his fragile certainties. Dreams of rust-covered saints, bleeding from stone eyes, haunted his sleep, while waking hours were spent memorizing chants that asked for strength in restraint, not power. These contradictions never left him. They fermented, calcified, then burned. As Kaelion grew, the quiet doctrines of the Hollow became a prison of paradox. His belief that silence was strength clashed with his desire to be heard. His reverence for restraint masked a hunger for transcendence. This inner schism made him volatile, a perfect soldier externally, but inwardly split between obedience and unspoken yearning. When confronted with cruelty, he hesitated, unsure whether mercy was weakness or proof of control. In moments of glory, he recoiled, unsure whether pride betrayed the silence he worshipped. These early cracks widened with every unanswered prayer and unseen effort. They bred his eventual defiance, not out of rebellion, but desperation. He needed the storm to mean something. Every moment of stillness became unbearable, every ritual hollow, until Atlas's storm revealed a path paved not in doctrine, but devastation. He sparred beneath the stained glass windows, blackened with grime, his footfalls muffled by moss and ash. His blood burned with that same curse. But it wasn't enough. Not until he saw him. Atlas, the killer, the stormwalker, the thunder-eyed beast, descended in the midst of a sun-split storm. Kaelion watched, hidden beneath a dune-scarred shrine near the broken teeth of Vemar, as the god fought a 12-foot hippo beast whose hide had once cracked royal siege walls. Atlas didn't struggle. He laughed. And when the beast lunged, Atlas shattered its skull with a single strike. When thunder knelt, Atlas stands barefoot atop a shattered ridge of salt-raked blackstone, cracked by epochs of divine battle and the weight of dead oaths. He is colossal, not merely in frame, but in presence. 7 feet in height, but each breath he draws feels like a judgment. His skin is dark bronze, carved with thunder-racked scars and relic brands, the story of 1,000 wars etched in flesh. A claw scar, wide as a child's arm, spirals down his ribs, intersected by faded ink glyphs, burned in like a storm's signature. His body is the architecture of war, muscle like hammered iron, sinews tight as bowstrings, veins glowing faintly beneath the skin with dormant lightning. His knuckles are blackened, not painted, but scabbed into stone. His back is a mural of ruined battles and old betrayals. His hair spills in braided rivers of black and silver, matted with ash, bone beads, and thunder charms carved from sanfangs. His beard bristles like sacred overgrowth, curling down his chest, stained with soot and the blood of beasts. Around his neck, a talk of twisted metal and storm glass, still humming with storm static. His eyes are gold, not warm, but furious. The color of temples burning beneath a heaven that no longer listens. He stares without blinking, face cracked into the calm just before the world ends. And that day, he laughed. From the black mire, the beast rises, grotesque and holy in its wrongness. 12 feet at the shoulder, it walks on 4 thunderous limbs, its skin like scorched leather, folded over reef bone. Its face is hippo-like, but warped. Its jaws too wide, too gnarled, dripping with the mire blood of drowned kingdoms. Barnacle horns crown its head like a failed coronation. The creature's eyes are white voids, cataract blind, but brimming with wrath. Blubber ripples as it lumbers forward, each step exploding ancient stone. It screams, a bellow of tectonic hate that causes the air to ripple and the sky to shy away. The moment of impact, Atlas, still barefoot, leans forward. One punch, not a strike of grace, but of inevitability. His fist meets the beast's jaw. The sound is not thunder. It is the crack of the world's spine shattering. The creature's head twists grotesquely, spraying black ichor. Bone juts from torn flesh. A tusk breaks free and flies mid-air. Atlas catches it, drives it into the beast's heart, climbs the convulsing body like a god ascending a corpse mountain, raises both arms to the sky, and lightning answers. A single bolt, jagged as a scream, wide as death, splits the sky and strikes him. It does not kill. It obeys. The sky behind him churns, a celestial wound of storm clouds and fire, shaped like screaming faces. Torn banners flutter from broken cathedral pylons. Cracked statues of forgotten saints watch in silence, mouths open in awe or horror. Around the battle site, the remains of other challengers, bone fragments, shattered relics, rusted weapons, half buried in salt. The land remembers. The land watches. That was the moment Kaelion broke. Not from fear, but envy. While Dreythal whispered of ancestral fire and cursed oaths, Atlas was the myth. Real, unstoppable, worthy. Kaelion abandoned his hollow teachings and carved lightning sigils into his body, seeking a new form of transformation. He inhaled storm spores from the Arukai jungles, injected iron root sap mixed with widow venom, burned the marrow of dead Skyguard knights, and drank the charred oil. Every concoction, every agony, every delusion was a prayer to be seen. Among the few who shaped him, none left deeper marks than Velric, the taciturn blade master of Dreythal's inner sanctum. Velric never praised, only corrected, a man of rust and ritual, who taught Kaelion the value of breathing between strikes and listening to silence between screams. Yet even Velric, in his stoic severity, seemed to hesitate when Kaelion asked what lay beyond their duty. "You will not like the sound of your own name when the silence ends," was all he said. Then there was Bria, the orphan sister of the watchfires. She once stitched Kaelion's arm after a brutal spar, her hands trembling not from fear, but belief. She told him that the storm whispered his name. Kaelion remembered her voice more than her face. He remembered how she flinched at thunder, how she laughed like wind through broken bells. She vanished the night of the second purge. No records, no shrine. These memories, fractured and fevered, resurfaced often in Kaelion's hallucinations. Bria's voice would return in storm-sick dreams, singing in static. Velric's stare would glare from broken mirrors, whispering, "Not enough," with eyes that never blinked. And in these recollections, Kaelion found neither comfort nor truth. Only fragments sharp enough to wound whatever clarity remained. Bria's fate remained uncertain in official records, but whispers among the hollowed claimed she had joined a dissident splinter group, the Morning Flame, who believed Kaelion's madness was prophecy misunderstood. Some say she led rituals beneath the drowned cathedrals of western Dreythal. Others that she drowned herself in storm-brewed brine, smiling as her lungs bloomed with lightning. Velric, meanwhile, was last seen before the gates of the Order's sealed reliquary, robes tattered, face blood-streaked, reciting Kaelion's name in every dialect of the old tongue. He vanished after that. Some claim taken by the Order for reconditioning, others that he walked willingly into the wilderness, chasing thunder no one else heard. To Kaelion, these fates were not tragedies. They were echoes, broken reflections cast forward into ruin. The mirror cracked. Kaelion's descent. The noble knight. Kaelion of House Devours was once the ideal knight of Dreythal's later Hollow Order. Broad-shouldered, composed, armor polished to obsidian sheen, face unscarred but severe. His dark hair, trimmed and oiled, framed sharp cheekbones and clear grey eyes. The eyes of a soldier who had not yet seen the truth of gods. His voice was deep, calm, deliberate. Even his silence held weight. They called him Kaelion the Calm Blade. His posture was statuesque. His oath-bound armor bore no sigils, only the whisper marks of the Order. Restraint, resolve, silence. He stood beside warlords and walked courts as a symbol of what Dreythal could still be. Disciplined, noble, loyal to legacy. But even then, beneath the surface, the cracks were there. His eyes lingered too long on tales of Atlas. His sparring lasted too long, too hard, too personal. He bled for every lesson, because he wanted more. Then he saw Atlas, and the descent began. The first changes. He stopped cutting his hair, grew his beard wild. At first it seemed poetic, like some ancient knight returning to his roots, but the oil in his hair turned to soot. His once crisp armor became scorched and then abandoned, replaced with blood leather wraps and patchwork robes soaked in incense and venom. His face became gaunt, not starved but stretched, pulled too tight by sleepless nights and drug-fueled visions. His eyes, once clear grey, now flickered with pale gold and pulsing red. Never quite focusing, always dilated, always watching the storm that wasn't there. In the quiet moments between seizures and invocations, he whispered to the storm, "You saw me, didn't you? Say it again." He tattooed his tongue with lightning runes, scarified his chest with drug symbols only he could interpret. Teeth blackened from root oil chewing, fingertips stained violet blue from storm spore injections. His once steady hands twitched, cracked, curled. He remembered Naira's voice saying his name, but only as a sound, stripped of meaning, as if spoken in reverse. He laughed too much, or not at all. He spoke to reflections, sometimes to bones, sometimes to Atlas, or his idea of Atlas, crouching beside fireless coals and asking, "Was this the shape you meant?" His gait, once precise and grounded, turned spring-loaded, unpredictable, twitching between grace and sudden violence. Thought and memory blurred until the difference vanished. Where once he inspired discipline, now he radiated dread. Whispers slithered through the barracks of the Hollow Order. Some younger initiates spoke his name only in candle-lit confession, fearing that to utter it in daylight would summon madness. Others idolized him still, calling him the true face of devotion, a martyr forged in godfire. The elders argued in cloisters. Was he a warning or a prophecy fulfilled? Warden Velric's silence on the matter only deepened the schism. A recruit once claimed to see Kaelion in the mirrored surface of the sanctuary pool. His smile a crooked crescent, his eyes pleading and furious. Another found Kaelion's old training gauntlet and swore it whispered scripture in a tongue of static and sorrow. One scribe went mad, transcribing a dream of him, carving lightning spirals into his own skin before leaping from the Order's highest spire. Kaelion had become not a man, but a prism, and through him, every soul in the Hollow saw what they most feared. The god in pain, the knight turned heretic, the storm that no longer asked permission to strike. Sir Talvek, his old sparring partner, refused to speak Kaelion's name, burning the corners of training manuals where it appeared. Novice Bria, once his closest shadow in drills, began painting her lips with stormroot pigment in secret, whispering prayers before empty altars. Archivist Hearn, a staunch traditionalist, had his tongue removed after screaming Kaelion's heretical sermons during midday prayer. And Captain Lurith, torn between fear and awe, recorded a secret journal of Kaelion's descent, hiding it inside a false brick behind the barracks shrine, hoping future generations might understand what the Order could not contain. Through these echoes, the legend fractured, not into right or wrong, but into fragments sharp enough to cut faith itself. An engine of barely leashed chaos, fueled not just by drugs, but by a collapsing cathedral of faith, burning from the inside out. The final vision. In his last days, Kaelion looked like a scarecrow, haunted by its own creator, hunched, covered in ritual bandages and broken plates, storm symbols painted across his chest in his own blood. His hair fell in dread-knotted tufts, matted with oil and broken glass charms. Every step he took left a smear of ash behind him. Every breath stank of copper and ozone. Every word he spoke made the devout nervous and the damned listen. To those who never knew him before, he was a myth. To those who did, he was the greatest knight they ever lost. His body warped, a weapon now too fast for most to follow, too volatile for command. Faith, he claimed, was not in stillness, but in fury, in breaking limits. The last reflection. The ruins of an old Hollow Order bastion, Van Hall, once a fortress of silence and shadow, now half buried in wind and ivy. Lanterns flicker faintly across the inner sanctum, where High Warden Velric of the Hollow Watch waits. He's older now, thinner. His once imposing black steel armor dulled with dust and memory, but his gaze remains sharp until the door opens. Kaelion steps through. Not the knight Velric once trained, but something else. Hair wild, robes shredded, lightning runes glowing faintly beneath drug-scarred skin. His eyes burn, one pale gold, one blown out entirely by experimental stormroot. He doesn't blink. He doesn't bow. Velric, quietly. Kaelion, voice trembling with unnatural joy. Warden, I brought the storm with me. Velric rises, each movement like lifting a stone memory. Velric, you were meant to be the blade that never faltered. You had discipline, mercy. I trained you to endure the silence, not scream into it. Kaelion, grinning, stepping closer. I endured, Warden. I ascended. I watched Atlas crush a beast the size of a temple and laughed while thunder kissed his shoulders. That silence you worship? It was fear, cowardice, hollow. I filled it. He taps his chest, where a jagged glyph pulses beneath his skin. Velric, bitter. You were my legacy, a knight of Dreythal's last hope. Now you're a shrine to madness. Kaelion leans in, inches from Velric's face. Kaelion, number. I'm proof the hollow was never enough. You made me a mirror. I became lightning. Velric's hand drops to his blade, but he doesn't draw. He sees it now, the truth carved into Kaelion's ruined form. There's nothing left to save, only myth, only flame. Velric, softly. Then strike, hollow saint. Let me fall knowing I failed. Kaelion stares, twitching, breathing shallow, but he doesn't strike. Kaelion, almost confused. I'm not here to kill you, old shadow. That honor's for gods. He turns, walks away, cloak trailing, leaving scorch marks on the stone floor. Velric slumps into his seat, and for the first time in 40 years, the High Warden of the Hollow Order weeps. Excerpts from the journal of High Warden Velric of the Hollow Order. Entry 1, year 931, AE, Frostfall 3. The boy's name is Kaelion, housed Devours blood, orphaned twice over by war and inheritance. He entered our keep silent, bruised, but with eyes that observed everything. He doesn't flinch, doesn't tremble. His sword grip is crude, but his resolve. He reminds me of myself, but stronger, softer, but I was cold. There's something in him. I can feel it. I'll take him on personally. Entry 12, year 933, AE, Ashwake, 19. He's rising fast, beyond fast. The other recruits either hate or worship him. I can't blame them. His form is immaculate. His questions are sharp. And when he spars, it's like he's already fighting ghosts. He refuses praise, always asks, was it enough? I tell him yes. But I worry he doesn't believe me. Entry 23, year 936 AE, Thunderwake 5. Kaelion asked about the myth of Atlas today, unprompted. He's always been curious, but this felt different, obsessive. He said, what if the hollow is only the shadow of something greater? I told him the hollow is purpose, restraint, measured strength. He looked disappointed. Entry 31, year 937 AE, Embermore 27. He's missing from morning discipline. Again, his skin smells of stormroot. His pupils are strange, erratic. He says he's meditating, but trembles when idle. I found a broken vial in his chambers. He lied to me about it. The boy I trained is slipping, and I don't know how to stop it. Entry 34. Year 938 AE, Nocturnfall 1. He's gone, vanished in the night, left behind a single message, carved into his blade's hilt. I must become what you fear. I sat in his empty bunk for hours. I failed him. I taught him to fight shadows, and he went chasing lightning instead. Was I too hard? Too cold? Did I mistake pain for progress? Entry 48. Year 942 AE. Red Bloom 14. He returned today. I didn't recognize him at first. Hair wild, eyes glowing, covered in scars, shaped like prayers to something that should not answer. He spoke as if I was already dead. Told me he killed Naira, one of Atlas's children, and was proud of it. I said nothing. What could I say? The boy I raised, who I once dreamed would lead the Hollow into rebirth, now walks as a prophet of chaos. I watched him leave. I didn't follow. Entry 49, year 942 AE, Red Bloom 17. I cannot sleep. I keep seeing the boy, Kaelion before the rot, laughing after a spa, asking if he'd made me proud, and I said yes. I always said yes. Now I ride by lantern light, scribbling prayers into margins, asking gods I never believed in to forgive me for what I shaped. I should have seen the signs sooner. I should have stopped him, fought him, chained him if needed. Instead, I gave him silence and called it strength. I didn't lose a student, I lost a son. The final page contains no entry, only a single phrase, scratched over and over again in fading ink and shaking hand. He saw the storm. I gave him the sword. 9 years pass. He challenged Yavik, his own blood brother by oath, in the Forgotten Vale. They clashed like symbols of two dying legacies, shadow and storm. Kaelion, snarling with drugged clarity, struck Yavik down and impaled the Shadow Spear's cursed relic into the earth, declaring, "Faith that does not burn will rot in darkness." 4 years pass. Not long after, Kaelion sought out Eron Vale, the Balance Seeker, disciple of Restraint. They battled atop the fractured arches of Dreythal during a blood moon pilgrimage. Eron fell, not slain, but shaken. That was all Kaelion needed. And still, Atlas did not return. 3 years pass. Kaelion now wanders the dunes of Eleran, a heretic saint to the deranged, leading a sect of faith junkies known as the Stormbound, who scald their tongues with crushed thunder wax and brand themselves with lightning scars. They believe Atlas will return, not to save them, but to recognize them. Some claim to have seen his shadow in sandstorms. Others speak in tongues after consuming stormroot distillations, weeping as they recite Kaelion's visions like scripture. One was found kneeling before a shattered shrine, whispering, "He watches through the glass of lightning," as his veins glowed with borrowed light. In one of their rituals, called the Hallowed Shock, dozens gather barefoot on Saltstone, where Kaelion once wept under a false storm. They chant his 10 breaths, then inhale powdered bone ash mixed with stormroot resin. As seizures ripple through them, they describe visions: a sky made of screaming mirrors, a stairway of living thunder, Kaelion standing at its summit, arms outstretched, bleeding light. Some cry that they see Atlas, with a face made of molten gold and teeth like cathedral spires. Others claim to hear sermons in crackling static, voices praising Kaelion in tongues they do not recognize. One speaks of a city built on the back of a weeping storm god, where Kaelion reigns, with lightning veins and bleeding palms. Some die mid-chant, others rise claiming to be echoed, believing Kaelion has spoken through their broken minds. The Order records them as dangerous, the cult as divine, who scald their tongues with crushed thunder wax and brand themselves with lightning scars. They believe Atlas will return, not to save them, but to recognize them. To Kaelion, salvation is not forgiveness, it is witness. He does not seek to be godlike, he seeks to be seen by the God who changed him, and until that day, his veins will burn with prophecy and poison alike. 6 years pass. To be seen by lightning. The ruined temples of Helamar's Eye, a shattered city half buried in the red salt winds, sacred to the old cults of Atlas. The sky churns with distant stormlight. The air tastes of rust and scorched incense. Kaelion walks barefoot, blistered and beautiful in his broken way. His chest heaving with volatile bruise. Pupils wide and shimmering with storm shimmer. She's there. Nira, daughter of Atlas. Her hair, a living veil of soot and light. Her stance calm even amid his chaos. She's been in the city for weeks, tending to old relics, healing wounded pilgrims, asking no one to worship her. That alone drives Kaelion mad. The daughter of the storm, Naira, child of Atlas. Grace beneath the thunder, she stood like an unanswered prayer, poised, composed, yet seething with unseen force. Nira, daughter of Atlas, bore no crown and claimed no throne. Her power was not shouted, it radiated, humming through flesh and bone like the echo of divine restraint. She was not built to rule, but to remind gods they were once human. Her face, sculpted, symmetrical, yet never soft. The face of someone who knew exactly how much mercy to give and how much to withhold. Her skin was sun-bronzed and storm-kissed, as if weathered by prophecy. High cheekbones cut sharp angles into her silhouette. A faint scar bisected her lower lip. Not jagged, but clean, surgical, as if fate had marked her in passing. Her eyes, gold, like molten silence. They burned, not with fire, but with memory. Every glance held history, not only her own, but that of Atlas, of storms, of wars fought without swords. When she stared, men remembered their failures. When she wept, even thunder paused. A living veil, black as void oil, laced with streaks of lightning white, falling in waves down her back and across her shoulders. It moved when she didn't, as if stormlight whispered through it. In wind, it tangled like smoke. In stillness, it crowned her. She wore a hybrid garment, part ceremonial robe, part war plate, stitched from prayer cloth, stitched in spiraling runes only the dead understood. One pauldron bore the sigil of Atlas, faded, while the other was cracked, exposing the etched words, "Harm no one without truth." Tall, lithe, honed, not built like her father, but sculpted for balance. Each muscle a note in a song of discipline. She moved with the grace of a falling leaf, sharpened into a blade. Her hands were strong, but her fingers gentle. The hands of a healer, until they weren't. She wielded none. Her presence was the weapon. But when she fought, relics answered her. Fractured staves, singing spears, spectral flame. Her aura distorted time in close quarters. Some said her breath carried psalms. She stands amidst the ruined temples of Halamar's Eye, ash lilies blooming at her feet. The red salt wind lifts her veil slightly. Behind her, shattered statues of Atlas kneel, not in devotion, but in regret. Lightning cracks silently above, illuminating her in monochrome brilliance. To her right, a broken bell chime rings, not from wind, but from memory. She does not pause. She stands, like consequence. Daughter of thunder, who walked without echo and bled without blame. Kaelion staggering, arms outstretched, eyes wild. Daughter of the storm, look at you. Soft-spoken in a city where your father roared thunder into the sky. Tell me, what did he give to you? Was it silence, humility, shame? Nira doesn't answer. Her golden eyes narrow, not in fear, but pity. Kaelion, voice cracking. I saw him. I saw Atlas with my own eyes. I carved his name in my bones. You think being born of him makes you worthy? I built myself in his image, blow by cursed blow. His voice turns to laughter, then sobs, then silence. She steps forward, slowly. N-W-R-A. You've burned your soul chasing echoes. He never asked for this. None of us did. Kaelion's head twitches. His hands tremble. Lightning oils coursing through shredded veins. Kaelion whispering, you don't want to be him, but I need to be. Then the storm began. 5 days and nights of madness. They fought across rooftops, sewers, ash gardens, and drowned temples. Witnesses died just from being too close. Pilgrims prayed in terror. Locals fled. Kaelion struck with drugged fury, faster than thought, hungrier than fire. Naira answered with control, restraint, inherited strength, but not belief. That's what broke him. On the 5th night, beneath a thunderless sky, Kaelion drove his searing blade through her heart in the Garden of Shattered Bells. The Garden of Shattered Bells, Naira's death. Thunderless, the garden lay in ruin. What had once been sacred ground, where Atlas himself once whispered to wind, was now a cemetery of silence. Broken wind bells littered the earth like shattered prayers. Ash lilies bloomed in defiance, pale and trembling in the hot breeze. Each flower seemed to hold its breath, and at the center, Nira. She lay cradled in the cracks of old lightning strikes, her back arched slightly against the fractured altar stone. Her white robe was ruined, torn at the hem, soaked in blood that pulsed from a deep wound beneath her heart. Her golden eyes, dim now, still held Kaelion's face. Not with hatred, but with understanding. She smiled. A calm, forgiving, tragic smile. The kind only someone born of gods could wear, while dying at the hands of one who wanted to be more. Kaelion stood above her. His blade, steaming with Naira's blood, trembled in his hands. No longer steady. No longer righteous. His eyes were wide, glowing faintly, not with glory, but confusion. His mouth hung open, breath hitching, unable to form words. The wind stirred, not with storm, but with emptiness. He waited, and waited, for thunder, for judgment, for Atlas. But no lightning came, no voice split the sky. No divine sign acknowledged his act, only wind, only silence, only her blood, warm on his shaking hands. He dropped the blade, fell to his knees. Kaelion, whispering, trembling. Why won't he come? Naira's hand reached up, shaking, soft, touched his cheek once before falling. She smiled. Naira, final breath. Even now, he won't see you. Then finally, she was still. Around them, the bells did not ring, the flowers did not bloom, the sky remained cloudless, and Kaelion, who had spent his life screaming to be seen, was unseen in the act he thought would define him. She died with peace. He lived with silence, and the storm did not speak. Kaelion stood over her, panting, blood mist coating his arms, high beyond reason, but the thunder never came. No lightning split the sky, no voice of Atlas, only the wind, mocking, empty. He fell to his knees, twitching, foaming, weeping. Kaelion, numb. Why won't he come? I've done everything. And still, no sign. The storm does not speak. The fifth night had passed. Naira lay still, cradled by the ash lilies of Helamar's dead gardens. Her blood pooled in thunder-shaped cracks. Kaelion stood above her, blade pulsing faintly, veins crawling with molten stimulant, heart beating the rhythm of a broken drum. But no lightning came, no crack of divine thunder, no whisper of Atlas, only the silence, the kind that feels intentional. Day 6, Kaelion doesn't sleep. He wanders the empty streets, laughing to himself. He drags Naira's blood-stained cloak behind him, whispering to it as if it could answer. Kaelion, she was in your image, Atlas, and I proved myself. I made her fall like thunder does. You saw it. You had to. But still the skies remained quiet. He pours crushed storm shards into his mouth, injects sunroot extract soaked in serpent spit. Blood leaks from his nose. His eyes flicker with static. Not power, but damage. Day 7, he speaks to statues now, to cracked pillars bearing Atlas's likeness. He calls one father. He calls another judge. He sets Naira's severed braid atop a shrine and begs it to open its eyes. Nothing. The hallucinations begin. Shadows with golden eyes follow him. His reflection begins speaking back, accusing him. Mirror Kaelion, whispered snarl. You didn't prove anything. You're not the storm. You're the smoke after. He breaks every mirror he finds. Day 10, he returns to Naira's body. It's gone, taken by the faithful who still dare to love her. Kaelion screams until his voice breaks. He rips the lightning scars from his own arms. He drinks poison, then vomits it. He slams his fists into the stones until his knuckles are gone. He screams at the sky. Kaelion, I was made to be your reflection. Why do you turn your face away? No answer. Only wind. The 5 duels of the Hollow Saint. After Naira, Kaelion could no longer hear silence, only a need. The drugs were no longer tools, they were worship. And every drop, every stolen dose, every blood-soaked phial was another stair in the altar he built toward Atlas. He needed more. 1. The Apothecary Massacre. Tharnval's Lower Moor. 3 nights after Naira's death, the apothecary's lab in Tharnval's Lower Moor was a cathedral of blasphemy. Walls crowded with shelves of bubbling tinctures, nerve root lattices coiled in vials, scrolls inked in nerve fluid and drug script nailed to broken statues of forgotten saints. The air reeked of scorched mercury, venom bloom, and bone oil. Light came not from candles, but chemical flame, each flickering blue-green fire, illuminating shadows that twitched with sentience. Kaelion burst through the alchem glass door, cloak of flame at the hem, face smeared with burn oil and ash pollen. His hands already bled, from shattered vials, from his own pre-dual injections. He trembled, not from fear, but overload. Before him, Voss, the amber eye, master of compounds, stood in shock, one eye glinting gold, the other already filling with blood. The scrolls on his altar caught fire behind him, their edges curling like dead leaves, symbols dissolving into smoke. Kaelion leapt across the lab, tackled Voss into a tower of glassware. Bottles exploded, crimson mist, cobalt vapor, gold dust. Screams followed, not from pain, but transformation. He pinned Voss, drove a rusted injector into the man's neck. Stormroot, triple spliced, soul raw, lightning walked, surged into Voss's veins. The effect was immediate. His skin rippled, pulsed, cracked. His teeth shattered from pressure. His eyes rolled back, one glowing like a second sun, the other bubbling. And he laughed, deep, wet, terrified joy. A laugh that broke into sobs, that turned into gurgling, that finally became silence. Kaelion watched the transformation like a priest, witnessing birth and death in one act. His blood-soaked hands trembled. His smile was reverent. Kaelion, softly to himself. This is what it means, to be seen. Behind him, scrolls burned, bottles erupted, colors fought in the air, red flame eating blue smoke, yellow oil running like tears. Kaelion stripped the lab, not for escape, but ritual. He drank boiling tinctures, mid-madness, smeared sigils and Voss's blood across his chest. Ate dried root, straight from the sacrum jars. And then he walked out, shirtless, eyes glowing, teeth blackened with residue. Behind him, the alchemy crucible ruptured. The lab ignited. 7 guards arrived too late. Only the echo of a scream remained. Half human, half divine. All wrong. Inscription beneath the frame. He did not duel the alchemist. He devoured the altar. Kaelion descended into the shadow alleys of Thanval. Second duel of the tethered storm. Broken aqueducts of Virellan. He challenged Ser Vakreth, a sea knight infused with spine venoms and bound by oath to the Azure Saints. A warrior said to breathe lightning after swallowing godfish hearts. The duel lasted 6 hours. Kaelion fought half-naked, seething with a mix of burned angel thorn and distilled Arukai eel ichor. His veins glowed, his skin steamed. He laughed when Vakreth stabbed him through the lung. He killed Vakreth with a single palm strike that shattered the knight's ribcage. After, Kaelion harvested the spine and boiled the marrow into a new tincture he called Saint's Nectar. 3. The Mirror Duel, Bone Gardens of Sarake. Kaelion hunted Mirath, an exiled priestess of the Ashbinders, who wielded twin crescent blades and walked barefoot across lava in prayer. She was said to have touched the edge of god heat, a rare survivor of Atlas's flame echoes. He ambushed her during a funeral rite. Her acolytes begged for peace. He made no sound. The fight was brutal. Fire against speed. She burned him. He broke her arms. She spit in his face and cursed his name in 7 tongues. He kissed her on the forehead before crushing her skull with a knee. Then he licked her blood and used her funeral coals to bake a new serum into his spine. 4. The Bloodletters Crossing, drowned temple of Dayon Lass. To find a lost formula, set to melt bones and flood muscles with pre-death adrenaline, Kaelion slaughtered his way through a monk cult called the Bloodletters' Hands. They worshipped martyrdom, and none fought back. He killed 43 in silence. He found their ancient almanac, devoured the pages, burned the rest, and drank the ash slurry over a 3-day vision quest, vomiting prophecy. He was never the same after. 5. The Duel of Laughing Bones, near the mouth of Cinders. In a remote volcanic ruin, Kaelion faced Shen of the Tusked Helm, an exiled gladiator believed to be half demon, half dragon, fed on molten minerals and mad from ancient whispers. They fought for 3 days, feeding off stolen compounds between rounds. Shen chewed metal. Kaelion drank blood-thick oil. On the 4th morning, Kaelion bit through Shen's throat during a grapple, whispering, "Your strength is beautiful." But it was never his. By then, Kaelion's body was more alchemy than flesh, heart triple pumping, muscles woven with parasite silk, blood laced with condensed thunder. But his mind? Gone, or perhaps deliberately severed, lobotomized not by blade, but by theology, warped through suffering. A cathedral of delusion stood where reason once dwelled, its pews filled with hallucinations, its altar a shrine to the silence of Atlas. He no longer knew what day it was, no longer remembered Nira's phase, only that she bled well, like a sacrament poured upon stone, like a name he had scrubbed clean from memory in hopes that God would write over it. The Ashen Canticles, Book of the Hollow Saint, compiled by Brother Lear of the Black Ink Order, year 1012, i.e. Chapter 6, The 5 Jewels of Kaelion, Blessed or Broken. Verse 1, and lo, the Hollow Saint did wander after the fall of Nyra, daughter of the Thunder-wrought, his hands still trembling with her deathlight. His veins whispered songs of ash, and his soul had grown teeth. The world would not know peace while he still breathed devotion into blood. Verse 2, in the alley labs of Tharnval, where dust eats gods and addicts name stars, he slew the 7-guarded. He drank the brain light of Voss the Amber Eye, and wept from both joy and clarity. The sinners call this the first duel. The Apothecary Massacre, verse 3. On the drowned ledges of Virelan, beneath the ruined teeth of Saint Mael's aqueducts, the saint met the sea-breather, Vakreth, of the azure flame. They fought under moon and sewer chant until Kaelion, howling joy into the black air, broke the night with a whisper of his palm. This is the 2nd duel. The Tethered Storm, verse 4. In the bone gardens of Sahrakeh, where flame never sleeps, he walked barefoot and burned. There, he danced with Mireth, the firewalker, sister of silence and flame. Her death was not war, but worship. From her ashes, he baked poison into bone. This is the 3rd duel, the Mirror Duel, verse 5. Beneath the drowned temple of Dayon Lass, whose vaults held death like honey and stone, Kaelion passed through the martyr's veil. 43 monks knelt, unarmed, chanting for his soul. He offered them no words, only wounds. This is the 4th duel, the Bloodletters Crossing, verse 6. And lastly, near the mouth of Cinders, where the sky coughs ash and demons lie chained in fire, he met Shen of the Tusked Helm. They fought not with swords, but with devotions burned into blood. On the fourth dawn, Kaelion drank victory through a torn throat and whispered forgiveness. This is the fifth duel. The Laughing Bones, verse 7. And with each duel, the saint grew brighter and madder. He walked not as a man, but as a blade looking for a hand. But no hand came, only the final forest and the silence of Atlas. Let this be remembered, not as a hymn of glory, but as a bell rung for the last time before the temple collapses. Do not chase the storm when you are made of skin. Layer of the black ink. 10 years pass. Echo of a god. Kaelion wanders now, across the dunes, into fallen cities and blood-soaked cradles. No longer man, no longer storm. Something between, something fading. He forgets his name, he forgets Naira's, he forgets which scars were made by battle and which were made by his own hand. He sees Atlas everywhere, in clouds, in strangers, in dust. But none of them see him back, and that, more than death, is what breaks him. 17 years pass. Food for the flowers. The forest was still, old, moss-wrapped, pulsing with ancient breath. No thunder here, only rotten wind and the chirp of birds unafraid of gods. Kaelion found him. Atlas, older, wilder, his mane of hair knotted with leaves, his beard hanging like storm clouds woven in silence. Cloaked in a massive black hide, his boots forgotten beside the log he leaned against. He looked less like a god, more like a tired memory. But Kaelion fell to his knees, weeping with laughter. Kaelion, voice trembling. You're real. You're real. I knew it. I saw you. And I made myself worthy. Atlas didn't move. He plucked something from his beard. A thorn, maybe. Or a memory. Kaelion stood, pacing like a caged animal, desperate. Kaelion, I've killed warlords. I've fought your Shadowblood brother, Yarvik. I've beaten Erin Vale. I took every drug carved by dead alchemists, drank poisons from thunder shrines, burned my soul into a blade. He grins, voice cracking. I even killed one of your children, Naira. She bled beautifully. That made Atlas stop chewing the stem in his mouth. His eyes, dim with age, flicked up. Atlas, quiet, nearer. Then he began to rise, slowly, a tired mountain remembering what it means to loom. Kaelion gasped in joy, reaching into his tattered cloak, hands trembling. He uncorked vials, crushed stones, injected spore blood, popped death tinctures. Smoke rose from his veins. His eyes turned star-white. Kaelion, gasping. This is it, all of it, saved for you, for this. I'm ready. I'm perfect. His body transformed, raw muscle, impossibly fast, movements like wind sharpened into weapons. He was faster than dragonfire, stronger than myth. For one moment, he was the pinnacle of everything mortal ever dreamed. He sprinted at Atlas, screaming with joy. Kaelion, thoughts racing. He'll see me. He'll struggle. He'll call me his equal, his heir, his mirror. But as he entered striking distance, Atlas didn't dodge. He didn't charge. He simply lifted his hand, not clenched, not prepared, just lifted. And with a movement gentler than brushing a leaf away, Atlas struck. There was no noise. Kaelion's entire upper body vaporized. A mist of red, bones shattered before sound could catch them. His legs collapsed like puppets cut mid-dance. His blade never even glinted. Atlas exhaled, slowly, rubbed his massive shoulder, wincing slightly. Atlas, muttering, "Food for the flowers." He didn't look back. He walked on, deeper into the forest, the moss soft beneath his feet. The wind carried no glory, no eulogy, only silence. The apotheosis mistake, the death of Kaelion. Where the storm did not answer, the forest did not mourn. It watched, ancient, moss-choked, silent, as Kaelion's corpse fused into its soil like a forgotten offering. This was not a battlefield. No banners waved, no echoes of victory or grief, only green shadows, thick as breath, and a quiet so complete it made sound feel like blasphemy. Where once there had been a man, a saint of venom and voltage, now there stood only his legs, charred to onyx, rooted to the stone, boots still smoldering, ankles locked wide in a stance of charging faith. Above the waist, nothing. No gore, no bone fragments, just a fine mist of red arcing into the foliage, fading as if ashamed of its origin. The forest bowed around the cratered space. Ash leaves drifted from high branches like forgotten hymns. Red glass charms, strung from the canopy by pilgrims who came too late, tinkled on threads of wind, whispering his name like a memory half remembered. Kaelion, Kaelion the bloomed, Kaelion the burned. At his feet, a pouch of phials, still warm, nestled in moss like relics stolen from a god's fever dream. Liquids shimmered inside, storm oil, venom root, saint's ichor, the last blend he brewed, his masterpiece, never consumed, never recognized. A nearby tree bore the scars of scratched prayers, crude glyphs carved with bone or madness. Witness me. Father, I rose. Storm is not a sin. No animals approached, the birds did not sing, even decay dared not touch what the sky had denied. The sun filtered through leaves, painting his remains in gold, a grotesque spotlight on failure, mistaken for martyrdom. There was no divine presence, only the deep hum of silence. Not reverent, indifferent. Kaelion had sprinted toward godhood, arms wide, heart full of poison and prophecy. And in return, the god lifted a hand and erased him. He offered his body as thunder, but the storm did not speak. Only the trees remain, and even they forget. 1 week later, the blooming of the hollow saint. It was a boy who found him first, a Scarthin pickpocket turned grave scout, wandering the moss-thick woods north of Thirinal. He saw the legs first, charred but standing, as if the man had simply vanished from the waist up. No blood trail, no bird song, no predators dared touch what was left. And at the foot of those ruined boots, a pouch. Inside, vials still warm with Kaelion's last drug blend, his masterpiece, his offering. The boy took it, drank it. He wept. He chose to ascend, the boy whispered. Within weeks. The story spread like sickness among the fringe zealots, the storm-bound dregs, the vagrant blood chemists who had once followed Kaelion from ruin to ruin. They came to the forest in droves, whispering his name, not as Kaelion the Mad, not even Kaelion the Killer. They called him Kaelion the Bloomed, the Hollow Saint. They claimed he had raced into the arms of Atlas and been struck not in wrath, but in initiation. That his body could not contain his ascension. That he had finally become pure storm, reborn beyond flesh. They built a shrine where the legs still stood, hung red glass from the trees like raindrops caught in time, lit moss with blue oil, and whispered the 10 breaths of Kaelion, a ritual built from fragments of hallucinations he once screamed into the night. The drugs he left behind became relics. Pilgrims would take microdoses, fall into seizures, and claim they heard the strike. Some swore they saw his upper body rising in clouds during thunder. 13 years pass. The faith splits. The cult that rose around him, now calling itself the Bloomed Storm, fractured quickly. The binders of the Pulse believed Atlas himself had chosen Kaelion as a weapon, and now awaited a second strike to reveal his next martyr. The Ashvane Choir claimed Kaelion killed Atlas, and that what walked from the forest was a false god, a test to weed out the unworthy. Others simply swallowed the drugs, branded their tongues, and whispered of the perfect moment, Kaelion's final sprint, burned into myth. The Ashen Canticles, Book of the Hollow Saint. Compiled by Brother Lear of the Black Ink Order, year 1012, i.e. chapter 7. The blooming that was not. Verse 1. When the saint vanished, no bones were buried, only his legs remained, ash-hardened and unbent, standing like pillars in the moss-rich woods of Halimar's edge. The rest of him had been taken by lightning, or so they claimed. Verse 2. A boy found him first, a small thief, nameless in most retellings, though some now call him the first bloom. He wept at the sight, not from grief, but joy. He left the flesh behind, the boy said. He rose. Verse 3. Thus the cult began. The Bloomed Storm. They spoke of Kaelion not as man or martyr, but as a chrysalis. The obliteration of his form was not a death, they said, but an ascension, a shedding of the final husk, a storm's final echo into divinity. Verse 4. They built shrines around the place his legs still stood, hung wind chimes of red glass, chanted the 10 breaths of Kaelion, phrases pieced from his fever visions and drug-sickened ravings. They ingested storm powder until their tongues blistered. They called this suffering sacred. Verse 5. They say now that Atlas struck Kaelion not in anger, but in initiation. That the final blow was a divine unlocking. That Kaelion had become a god not because of Atlas's recognition, but because of his refusal to fall silent. Verse 6. They are wrong. Verse 7. I have read the last pages of Warden Velric's journal. I have spoken with those who remember the boy as he once was. Bright-eyed, noble, full of restraint and promise. And I have seen the forest. I have stood before those legs. I have felt no divinity, only grief. Verse 8. He was a man, a great man, a fractured man, a lost man, who mistook pain for purpose and thunder for love. He did not ascend. He was unmade. Verse 9. The cult prays to a silence that killed him. Let the record show. Atlas never looked back. No thunder answered, no shrine bloomed. Verse 10. There is holiness in his story, but not in its end. The holiness lies in what he might have been. Let no one mistake collapse for apotheosis. Let no one worship wounds as wings. Beware the prophets of the ash, leer of the black ink. And Atlas? He never returned to that forest. He never corrected the myth. He simply walked on, burdened, silent, indifferent. Thanks for venturing into the storm with me. Every tale in this universe, from the shattered kingdoms to the cursed bloodlines, I write myself. All the art, all the visuals, every drop of atmosphere you feel, that's shaped by hand and pieced together with my passion to create. These stories take a lot of time to make real. So thank you for your patience when the drops take longer than I'd like. If you felt something during this journey, if you got goosebumps, held your breath, or just needed a break from the noise of the real world, do me a solid. Like the video. Subscribe for more and share it with a nerdy friend who needs to touch grass or get scorched by Atlas's lightning. Your support keeps this storm alive.